All right, it's another edition of All Ball. Mike Yam and Lamar Hurd with you. I feel like I got a little bit more of command in my voice compared to last week's show. Just a little bit. Still a little sick, which is very weird to me. Although everyone I talk to says something's going around, so I guess I caught it as well. Yes. I'm pumped up for today's show. There is a ton to get to. You and I, we've been going and bouncing around the NBA. We've been talking about the Combine. Combine officially in the rearview mirror. We'll hit on some winners. One guy in particular I thought really helped boost his stock. Washington State fans will be smiling ear to ear when I get to that coming up here. But we got the WCC tournament around the corner. It's kicking up this week or tipping off this week. We'll keep it sports specific. Take me back, man. Oregon State. You're prepping now. It was Pac-12 at that point, but you're prepping for the conference tournament. What is that actually like?
It's different depending on where your team is. So I experienced all of the different, I guess, variations of prepping because, like my freshman year, it was just learning. How do we do this? What is the conference tournament like? What do you expect? Things like the banquet that's held the night before game start is something that's exciting. They announce awards. People just get to hang out with one another and just enjoy one another. And for me that year, it was important because I knew they were doing the all freshman team awards. And there was expectation that I would be one of the top 5 in the all freshman team. And I ended up being technically honorable mention. And you know me, Yam. I don't play or do things for awards or kind of, like the recognition, the this and that. Like, look, you see my thing behind me. Like, I got some Emmys in closets I could put back here if I want to, but I just don't care. And it's not a bad thing if you do care. Like, by all means, if people earn certain things, like go after it. I just really don't care. Usually, this freshman season though, because it wasn't a season like I wasn't proud of. Like I've talked to you before about struggles I've had during my time playing at Oregon State. And so I wasn't happy about the season I had, but I knew that it was good enough to be in contention to still make that team. And so it's almost like solace, almost like, okay, at the very least, I can at least just take that and then try to build on something, maybe mentally get into gear where I need to get to achieve what I wanted to achieve while being in college. And when they did the awards, I ended up being honorable mention. And I was like actually surprised. I wasn't like shocked, but I was surprised just because I thought I did enough to get the nod on it, but I also understood the people that they had. There was really good freshmen that year. There was Nate Robinson, there was Andre Iguodala, there was Ike Diagu, who didn't have like a long NBA career, but in college he was like Shaq to a lot of people. This dude was he was a killer.
Yeah, he had a good NBA career too, by the way. Maybe not like the other dudes, but
like you, not the names that those other guys. No, yes, for sure, but no, he gets all the respect.
Yeah,
and then
I may or may not have drafted him in a couple of my fantasy leagues back in the day.
Yeah, I understand. I understand why you would if you weren't alone in that. And so there were some freshmen that I knew were going to be on there, and then there was me who was kind of like on the outskirts. And I remember at the banquet when it had come out, a Pac-10 coach at the time, who's very well respected. I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to put him out there in case he doesn't want this information out there. But he came to me and said, I voted you in over a guy named Richard Midgley, who played at Cal, was a really good player at Cal, and he was the one who got what that coach considered my spot. And when he said that, he said, and I'm not alone in it. And he named another coach that he said did the same thing. And when he said that, it like gave me a release of like, okay, because it's like one of those things where you want your peers to know.
Totally.
And then also like the coaches, the people you're going against, you want them to feel a certain way. And when he said that, because this is a coach that produced a lot of NBA talent, he had a really good team. And he was around the conference for a long time. And so when he said that, he went out of his way to say, like I didn't go ask a question. Yeah. I'm just this little freshman from Oregon State walking around the banquet trying to figure out where's the buffet table at? Where can I go get, the next round of meals?
Where's the Shirley Temple at? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out the whole thing. And he came and found me and said that. And so that meant a lot. I'll never forget it. But I just always appreciated that. And so that was my freshman year going into the tournament. My sophomore year, our team was in a rebuild mode. We had lost like 3 seniors from the year before. We were trying to figure our way out. And we had a game at the end of the season against UST at home. If we won the game, we went to the conference tournament. If we lost the game, we didn't even get to go. Because that's when they didn't let just everybody go. You had to qualify to go even to the conference tournament. And we lost the game, yeah, at the end. It was a tight game. It was close. It was down the stretch. We lost the game. My junior year, the conference tournament was important because that was the year we won every single game at home, except our game against Arizona. We won every single other game at home in blowout fashion for the most part. And we lost every single game on the road, except a game at Boise
I
State.
remember you telling me about
So
that. Yeah, yeah.
going into the conference tournament, it was like, if we want any chance of making the NCAA tournament, we got a legit chance. We play UCLA in the first round when they had Jordan Farmar and Aaron Aflalo, and we beat them in the first game. In the second game, we got Arizona. Again, the only team we lost to at home that year. And if we beat Arizona, I think we make some people think in regard to the selection committee and think okay, these maybe they should make it into the tournament.
But who was on that squad?
That was Salim Stoudemire. It was Channing Frye, Mustafa Shakur.
Oh, they had dudes.
Hassan Adams. Yeah, they always had dudes.
That's actually a good point too. Yeah.
Yeah, we lost to them, but that was a really, really good team that lost to Darren Williams and D Brown in that I think it was Elite 8 game or Sweet 16 game. And so we lost to them in that game and then ended up making the NIT that year. And then my senior year, I was hurt. So I got hurt 2-3 weeks into conference play that lasted all throughout the season. So when I went to the Pac-12 tournament, Pac-10 tournament that year, it was just as a bystander, just to hang out and do stuff. So I'm just floating around. I end up, the day before game start, I end up in a hotel room with several Pac-10 guys, and Brandon Roy was the headliner because he was the man that year. He was the conference player of the year. Like, he had his stock rose in a way that I just don't remember seeing rise for a college athlete, but from one year to the next. Because our junior season, he was really good. Like, he started to really post people up a lot his junior season. But our senior season, that's when he started shooting threes at an efficient clip. And so then it's like, okay, the game's over. It's done. So we all knew Brandon was going to be like a top 10, top 15 pick. So we're at the conference tournament, and the day before, somebody had a PlayStation or something, and I'm in the room just playing. We're all just hanging out. It's him. It's a couple guys from Arizona. There was somebody from UCLA, but I don't remember who it was now. I just remember Brandon most notably because we were all kind of surprised in a way. Like, what's Brandon doing here? Like, why is it,
Yeah. But what I don't understand is how does that actually happen? You and I, we did a bunch of shows, right? Where conference tournament, it's Vegas, you get it, team hotel. But I always think about you're just rolling with your dudes, your teammates. Now I know you weren't playing, but because you were banged up, but you're telling me multiple representatives of teams.
I don't even remember how it happened. I vaguely remember somebody saying, yeah, everybody's kicking it in room, whatever. And they're like, yeah, the UW guys are there, this guy's there, whatever. And it's all just the players. That's it. There's no coaches, there's no family members, there's nothing. They're just players in there. And it's about 10, 12 of us. So it wasn't like in a hotel room that feels like a lot, but it wasn't like it was 30 different people. I think word just got around that people were in the room playing and hanging out, and that just became the spot. So we just all went up there to hang out.
And no tension. Everyone.
Zero.
Now, does that I asked you that question. Does that surprise, and you give me no hesitation, you saying no. I think if I'm a fan and I think about rivalries, I think about competitiveness.
So this is why I say this. This is why I say no. This is why I say no. Because the people that were in the room, I do remember they were respected players in the league. There was nobody who's the dirty guy, or nobody who's considered you're not even talented enough to be in this room. Because people, you walk into certain rooms, they'll look down on you. Now, none of us were Brandon Roy. Nobody in that room was Brandon Roy, and we all knew that. But the rest of us had a certain level of respect as well. So it was a welcoming environment for everybody involved that was in a room, and we just were just kicking it, just hanging out. And that's a good question you bring up, because that had never happened. There was never anything else like that I could remember where, we're just hanging out with guys from the other team. That just wasn't a thing back then. We were 2 years into Facebook at the time. So that's pre all the other stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't like everybody just hangs out and goes and visits each other at their campus and parties together. Like, that just wasn't the thing. So it was a unique situation, but it was a good time.
Did you match up against Brandon Roy?
Yeah, every year.
So what was that like?
So the crazy thing is, my freshman year, oh man, I got to be quick with this because yeah, we got time constraints. My freshman year, there was NBA draft, mock drafts that came out. You know how they do mock drafts?
Oh yeah, yeah.
They had my name as a second round pick, which I didn't even think I was I didn't think I earned that. Like, I was so disappointed in myself my freshman year based on what I knew I was capable of doing. But they had my name in it. Brandon was not in that list. So there was once a time when my name was above his. Now, there's reasons for that. One, I did have decent moments during my freshman year, but also Brandon was fighting injury. So we never got to see him really round into form until that next season, because we had really good games against UW every year. Like, my freshman year, that's a year. Yeah, you know me. I'm not one to be like, yeah, like I did that. But my freshman year, yeah, I was one of the best players on the floor both times when we played UW, and we won both of those games. And Brandon wasn't playing, but everybody else was playing, and they had a good team. And we knew they were kind of like the sleeping monster. We knew, like, at some point they were gonna just take off, and it so happened that they did it the next season in a home game against us when we had them down 20 in the second half. Nate Robinson makes a 3-point shot to send it in an overtime at the buzzer. They take off and they win like 90% of the rest of their games and make it to the NCAA tournament after starting conference play 0-4 that year. We were their 5th game, I believe. And Brandon was a huge part of that because that's when he started coming to form. He was always big. He was always athletic. But he started to kind of find his niche within what they were trying to do. They played like an equal opportunity type of offense. And yeah, I'm telling you, I will never forget my junior year. We were playing him at home, and he ran to the post. So I always had the guard who was considered the best perimeter player on the other team. So Brandon was the guy I had to guard. And he went down to the post one play, and he did something, and he scored. He went down the next time, and I needed help. I was like, y'all got to help. Y'all got to dip in. Y'all got to do something. And look, yeah, he passed it out. And I was so like, I remember to this moment, there aren't a whole bunch of moments I remember from playing, but I remember like audibly, like, whew, because had he not passed it out, he still would have found a way to get a good shot. And then from that moment, they went away from posting him up. And I was so happy the rest of the game. And we won that game. If they never went away from it, there was nothing we could do to stop it. So he really came onto the scene his sophomore year and just took off and never looked back. And when he started shooting threes that senior season, that's when it was just lights out.
You knew he was going to be what he ended up being in the league?
No.
No kidding.
No.
Even with him like crushing it.
Nope. I thought he'd be really good. I did not know he'd be considered one of the best point guards in the league because he wasn't a point guard at UW until his senior season. So like I never saw him with the ball in his hands that way. And also, again, sometimes you're so close to something, you're so close to somebody. Maybe you don't see what all it could be because there were times where I had success against him. So here I am, I'm having success against him and his teammates, and I'm disappointed in my own career at the time. So I'm not thinking, if I'm having success against you and I don't even think I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, I'm not thinking you're about to be a legend in the league. But he was that. He was that and some. Like, he far exceeded what I thought he would be, but it wasn't in a shocking manner. Because of the jumps we got to see him take at UW, how quickly that all happened.
It's pretty cool because as you're watching the WCC tournament, these types of stories are happening nonstop.
Yeah.
It's like dudes that we're going to see in the league.
Yes, and he had a really good Pac-10 tournament. So be on the lookout for guys during this WCC tournament who might have a good tournament that turns heads, because scouts will be there, and then it might propel them into whatever that next opportunity is.
Yeah, just what's still looming here. And that's even before the NCAA tournament, where teams obviously want to punch their ticket and play in the big dance. Kind of cool going down story time with you. Coming up next here on All Ball, there is one reason why Washington State fans should be smiling ear to ear. We will discuss coming up next. All right, back here on All Ball, Mike Yam and Lamar Hurd with you. And by the way, this show is a podcast as well. So if you're watching us on YouTube, do not forget to go and follow the show wherever you get your podcast. But Lamar, to me, and we spent some time talking about the combine, well, I was sick, so I'm home. And of course, I'm just glued to the television watching it to begin with. But there was one player in particular, this entire college football season, I was working for the CW and we had the rights to the Pac-12. So I got to see a lot of Kyle Williams, and the wide receiver just made a ton of plays consistently. And I was curious to see how he would test, because with your eyes, you go, hey, like that dude's got some speed, but then everyone's clocking their 40s, 15th fastest 40 among the wide receivers. He ran like a 4.39, a 4.4. They run this thing twice. I've talked to some people. People think he's probably in that 15th range, right where he ran in terms of the collective group at that position. So, last year was a popular spot for wide receivers, it being taken in the first round. I think there's a chance he's, a second round, maybe even a third round pick. But I thought he was one of those guys that helped this stock. The one thing, and I was thinking about you as I was watching the combine, these dudes are running 40s. And I saw this in person even down in New Orleans for the HBCU combine as well. I'm thinking to myself, like, why do we gravitate towards some of this stuff? Because when they're out there on the football field, like the reality is, hey, you're wearing full pads, this game speed. And I've heard this phrase thrown out there before. I don't know what the evaluation process is for NFL teams, because I think they all do it a little bit different. My guess would be, Lamar, hey, what you do on your college tape, 80% of the evaluation, then it's a little bit of, we'll sprinkle in some combine, we'll sprinkle in some all-star games, we'll sprinkle in some conversations that we have with coaches and, maybe multiple schools because of the transfer portal, people around these programs, to get a full picture of some of these guys. But do you buy, because the NBA's got their combine too. Like, is there something that you can pull from what these guys are doing in spandex to say, hey, that translates?
Some things, like in the NBA, I know they do like a vertical jump and then they do like a quick jump type thing, like a
Sure.
jump, come down, how quick do you jump again? That kind of stuff, it can gauge just like how a guy can operate in real game situation, because it's very rare in the NBA, where even the NFL for that matter, where you get to just show off your full vertical. Like, you don't get a bunch of fast breaks all game where you're the only person down the floor. It's in traffic. It's within the confines of an offensive play call. It's operating that way. So even with the NFL, I'm guessing that's similar based on what you're saying. I think what a lot of teams are doing now, they're starting to look at stuff and they're saying, you know what? There was a whole era of just going off of potential, like seeing a guy and saying, oh, he can jump really high, he can run really
Sure.
fast. I feel like that started to change for the NBA. Like around my junior, senior year of college, like that's when they started to, at least we saw as college kids, a bit of a shift where it's like, wait, they drafted that dude? Like him. They're better
Yeah.
players than him.
Sure.
And in a way that if you plugged them into an NBA team, it seems like they would be better players. But a lot of professional personnel, they like the idea of potential. And they think that, well, this person has a potential to become something that this person can't based on their athletic measurements and times. So then with our player development staff, with now professional nutrition, professional training, we can turn them into something that that other person who might be a better player can't amount to athletically. So I do think there's something to it, yeah. I do think that.
Yeah. I'm with you, and I'll take it a step further too, because we have all this tracking data as you're watching the games. Like, hey, Tyreek Hill runs 22 miles an hour, whatever. Although he might actually run faster. But the point is, like the 40 times, like Xavier Worthy has an impact in when he runs the fastest 40, and we've seen that translate to the NFL, and obviously had some success with Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs losing in the Super Bowl. But they got there, and he had a really good rookie campaign. Here's the other thing that I would say. If your game tape shows me something, but then I go and see you in a drill where you're like all world and like a real standout, then I say to myself, hey, like maybe that piece of artwork, I could chisel it out a little bit more. And there's still some more upside. Like there's some things, I remember having this conversation with Steve Lavin. I'd say, Lav, how are you supposed to recruit, right? We do this in signing day on the football side. I go, man, I'm watching high school tape of these kids. That dude should be killing that guy because the guy he's killing is my size. Like, how are you really supposed to get a true measurement of what this guy can be. And he said, look, Mike, like there's a lot of, projecting out. And I think for these NFL teams, and I'd say the same about the NBA, because you made reference to the things and the drills that they do. They say to themselves, hey, there's an opportunity for this guy. I see this one thing that he's doing. Maybe it's the vert, maybe it's a 3-cone drill, whatever the case may be. And I say, hey, there's still some room there where I can make this guy and find him at a different level than what you saw in the college game. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here, but I do think, to your point, there's something to it.
What would you do if you saw a guy in college do really well? So Kyle Williams
Sure.
do really well, then he gets to the combine and he doesn't look good at the combine at all.
Yeah, so that's what worries me, and I think it speaks to the conversation you and I had last week where I said, hey, some of these quarterbacks, they don't throw. Does it bother you? And it's like, hey, it's kind of this business decision. And that's where I think, hey, part of that 70, 80%, of game tape tells you one thing. If Kyle doesn't run a fast 40, I don't I don't know if it kills me. Like maybe I'm an NFL team saying, hey, if I thought of him as a second round guy, that slow 40 time will probably drop him. I can get a good value pick in the third round. That's probably how I think about it. But then I'd say, well, let me put the game tape on. And guess what? Like dudes aren't catching him and he's creating separation. And I say to myself, what am I missing here? Is it a slow track? Is there, does an entire season worth of game film where I'm watching this guy ball out, does that get negated because he ran a slow 40 by, a tenth of a second, 2/10 of a second? I think it helps validate. I think the combine is a validation tool for NFL teams more than anything, is my personal take on it.